Okay guys, well this is going to be a video about the symbolism regarding Easter, and we're going to learn how to correctly decode all of this symbolism and put this symbolism in its correct context, because at the moment the way people view the symbolism surrounding Easter is completely incorrect, and it is the interpretation that the Romans gave the flock and brought everything down to fertility. And you will find that all of the academics bring everything down to fertility. And let me remind people that think when they are listening to academics, they are getting information that is free from this religious infection, that out of the 108 universities first founded in America, 106 of them were Christian. So all of the universities over in the United States were founded on Christianity. And we know who pushes Christianity, and that would be the Romans. And so the Romans, on both sides of their program for their flock, have reduced all symbolism down to breeding. And this is completely incorrect, because really only about 10% of the symbolism attributed to the goddesses and divine female is in regards to their breeding capabilities. Most of it is in regards to their intellect. They are important in the creation aspect because they do bring the divine spark down to foundation. And after the first emanation, that first time, from then on it is the female, even the mortal female, that brings down the divine spark and allows the Creator to still experience creation through his children and mankind. This is all because he can continue to manifest his seed through the female, because she then births the material from that time, from that first time. And so this is the only symbolism where you'll see the goddesses connected to creation. And this is only one attribute of who the female is. However, Rome once again has reduced the female to her vagina and her breeding capabilities, and you'll see with mortal women now, the unconscious mortal women that have basically continued to populate this planet, all make motherhood their complete identity. You would think that women have never had babies before these modern women started giving birth. It's complete rubbish, and it really is just a way for them to fill their shallow lives, because they have nothing of depth within themselves, and so they basically use their children as a way to fill themselves and create an experience through. And that's very selfish, because really a female's role is to create life and allow life to flourish independently. You're there to guide, not to instruct and tell and, ensure that the child is only doing what you feel the child should be doing. But unfortunately that's what parents do, because parents were such failures themselves at sports and all of these activities, because only very few people are good at certain sports and activities, so you're always going to have this competition which Rome breeds, and so you're always going to have people trying to be in that small percentage that do have those attributes to be good athletes. And if you do not make that cut, which very few do, then you are left to feel that you are somehow not good enough. And then you carry that through onto your children and then impress that onto your children that they must succeed more than you did. And that's because you were a failure and you feel like you are lacking. And so this is your second chance to redeem yourself. And this is just playing into the Roman script of exactly how they want you to feel and exactly why they create programming departments that the government has children go to and then puts them in this state of competition all the time. And now suddenly we're also seeing them now say that there are no losers. Everyone's a winner. And this is the problem that I see within the mentality of mankind, is that they think everyone is special and they think that God thinks everyone is special. And this is not how creation works, because if creation was to work in that way, then creation would not flourish. And so this is why only those that wish to partake in creation with their creator and expand in creation will continue on. And so unfortunately people are going to learn their place and why these mythologies were left, to remind them of their place and that they aren't so important, and they can't just replace God with themselves and then continue to disregard their creator, because it will only get them so far. And this is even encoded into the mythology all surrounding Easter. So this is what we're going to do in this video. I'm going to look at all of the symbolism surrounding Easter, and I'm going to decode it correctly with the right information and in the right context. If you disagree with me, then that is your free will, and you are free to continue on and find information elsewhere. You do not have to write me a huge, epic comment telling me what you believe. I'm not interested. I will not approve it. And you are just wasting your time, because you should not need to prove to me what the truth is if that's what you believe. Just go and prove it yourself with your own videos. Send me a video and then we can go from there. But as far as that, just having people tell me what they believe based on what they've heard, because some, and it's never some mythology. I only wish people could come and show me some mythology, but no, it's always what someone has told them. Someone they have deemed impressive has told them. They've seen it on their website or read their book. And so I'm not interested. So I just want to know that, and let people know that I'm not interested in any of what people believe. That's fine. Everyone has free will to have their beliefs. I don't do beliefs, I do truth. I do truth that can be backed and verified across culture. That's why I have over 900 videos on my channel, and that is why I teach the mystery teachings, and I do not proclaim for you to listen to me and believe me. I ask you to go and look at the information yourself and weigh and measure it yourself consciously and also instinctively, and see if that information resonates to you. But do not just tell me what you believe or think based on this video or a few videos that you have watched of mine. You need to be either a student and true seeker to understand this esoteric knowledge, or you are just pretending to be one. And if you are just watching a few videos and not really interested in how I've come to all of my conclusions, then seriously, I don't have time for you. You are a time waster and a cherry picker. And really, you're just, there to distract. So this is for people that are interested in information, that do have that will to go and seek it out further, because I'm not going to spend, an hour on a video. I'm just going to give you the basics, and then basically from that point you can then just take that and go and do more investigating. And this is what the students in the group do, and then this is why we have discussions in the group, and then we find more information that we can continue confirming the basics of what we've put back together, because again it all goes back to Rome destroying all of this information to start with. What do you think they've got locked up in the Vatican? And then why they've taken control of all of these mythologies, okay, and used them in their own ritualistic way to dumb down their cattle and tell them that they believe something completely different to what they actually symbolise. And then other people from the New Age take it and say, oh, it's all about fertility and the goddess and fertility, and they're no better. They have no idea what a goddess is. They don't even have any idea about intellect or Bina, the divine female intellect. So all I'm dealing with is a bunch of people that listen and take their information off someone that they think's impressive, and then they come and repeat that to me word for word, instead of they actually don't go and look for themselves into all of the mythology, all of the corresponding symbolism, how it repeats all the time, in the context that it repeats all the time. This is what people have to do to understand this mythology and to understand this language. This language is not for everybody. It's only for the certain few that have the mental eye open, or have the ability to open the mental eye, and everybody does have this ability. Those that are created closer to source, this ability is more innate in them, because this information is basically their own information they left for themselves. And so it's encoded into the fractals of nature. And this is why when you look at the archetypes that are attached to the symbols, you can understand the story correctly in all of the mythologies, because it's the same story about creation and divine man and mortal man. And that's why in all of the mythology there's divine man and mortal man. There's always a separation. It's there for a reason, because it is there and we've identified it. And so this is what they want to hide. They do not want people to know that there is a divine nature to mankind. And basically the lamb is the divine portion within the divine male. Okay, just like the rabbit in Easter is the part of the divine female. We can also see the unicorn is sometimes symbolising this, the white horse, and also the lamb. But it's all attributed to the divine part within divine man that is illuminated and reconnected to when the Christ light returns, when the presence of God returns to the physical plane, to foundation, to our experience, to our existence. It's all part of law of the universe. And so these mythologies were put there so that we remember this when we go into a time of physicality, which we're in now, where we're in a time of forgetting. Well, we are actually starting to wake up, some of us, and we're starting to have an understanding for this mythology. And this is because we do learn to pierce through the external appearance of this information and look at the real information that's been encoded within this, because it was left this way on purpose. This information is not for everyone, and the test of being able to see the real truth is whether you are worthy for this knowledge or not, or whether you are born closer to source, because there are those that are just very passionate about seeking information and an understanding for who they are, and this can happen in mortals as well. And this is why it is shown that every soul can make their way back to the crown and back to their divinity if they follow the path of the heart and they're doing everything for the good of the all and selflessly. And so this is the reminder that we kept putting down for ourselves in this mythology, that it comes down to the good and the pure. And this is the same with the Christmas symbolism and the coal. The coal is matter without spirit, and this is why the naughty children got coal. And this is because it was a reminder. And unfortunately, people have forgotten these reminders. And unfortunately, they have interpreted this mythology in the way that the Antichrist want them to interpret this mythology. And it's always centered around consumption and materialism. You just have to look at Christmas now. And Easter is the same, all about indulgence. And they've completely corrupted the symbolism. And so, as I said, the rabbit is actually attributed to the divine female. And this is to do with her divine portion, the divine part of her, though she is different with her divinity in the way that it works through her. She is not like the divine male. The divine male carries his divinity within him. It is a part of him. This is why he's the Son of God and the first extension. And then the divine female is the next extension from the Son. So it's this way that they connect to their divinity that differs, and he is more the first conduit from the Creator, and that is part of him, and then from that conduit, that light, she illuminates. And you see this even in the Empress card and the Emperor. The Empress card, she'll hold up her staff and it's glowing, and it's showing her connecting to the ethereal behind her, and picking up this light in the way that the divine female does. And it's even shown with the dove and the Virgin Mary and Mary Magdalene. Very similar, though the rabbit is more connected to the female. The Holy Spirit, the dove, can be connected to both the divine male and the divine female because it's Christ consciousness being carried on the ether. It's the ether that's got the essence of the divine intelligence, the divine creator's influence. So this, though, is more a connection to the divine female and the way she carries the divinity within her. It's also a connection to her intellect, because when you are looking at divine wisdom, it is like following a rabbit hole. We see this even in the mythology about the rabbit and Alice in Wonderland. She's chasing the rabbit down the hole, so we have this connection there. And there's also the fertility connection to the rabbit. However, it's only one aspect. As I've said, there are several layers to all of this symbolism. It isn't just one story, and you have to understand how to look at it in all of its context and all of its layers. Because if you only look at it from one perspective, then you don't get the full picture. You have to see deeply within all of the layers of the symbolism and look at the story. This is a huge story in this painting here. This is the fruits of the Creator are his children. This is the first emanation of the divine tribe, the firstborn divine tribe. All the divine tribes have a first emanation, a first seed that is created through the female. But this is only really shown all the time with the firstborn divine female because it's the strongest archetype, and what happens with the firstborn divine female and the firstborn divine male is automatically reflected in the rest of the divine females and the divine males, and then there's a element of that reflected in mortal man as well. There's always that carried through. It's not exactly the same, but that element is always going to be there. That fractal is always going to be there. And so this is the first emanation. And so why you see the Virgin Mary and she's holding the baby, and you sometimes see the baby and he looks really ugly, and sometimes he looks like a man already and it looks weird, and you think, oh, are they just painting it like because they're not very good at painting a baby, or are they really meaning the baby to look like a man and look so ugly? But no, they really are meaning the baby to look more like a man, because he is the first link between the divine and the foundation, because the divine male and female are created ethereally and physically from the Creator. They're both emanated physically and ethereally when they're first created. Think of them as seeds thrown onto foundation, onto earth, onto Mother Earth. And so they are created both from God, ethereally and physically. However, the divine female is already seeded in her womb with their first emanation from God. God's already put the seed in her womb. This is why sometimes she's seen as connected with God in that way. It's because he has seeded her. And this is why she's the virgin as well, okay? And so she has the firstborn on earth, on foundation materially. And so the first emanation is of God ethereally, divinely in the ethereal, created in the ethereal, but materially brought down through the divine female and materially onto foundation. And then we have this other aspect of the divine female being shown as the other part of the tribe with the divine male. But they are just showing this aspect of the divine female as the vessel for God's seed to be birthed onto foundation, onto Mother Earth. That's why she's shown in that way. That's why you have the Virgin Mary and Mary Magdalene, and they're different. And you can even see it looks like he has placed something in her hand. And think of the Holy Grail. They always do show her with the cup or with some receptacle which shows divine knowledge. And we see this with the Ark of the Covenant. Again, divine knowledge, and the way the male carries his divinity within like the lamp, and she fills her cup, the grail, through his illumination and his light and his connection with the Creator, because he is directly connected to God, to the Creator. And so we have the first emanation here as the bronze tribes, because we've got the gold tribes, of which the firstborn male and female Messiah is from. All the Messiahs are from the gold tribes. Then we have the silver tribes, and then we have the bronze tribes. And the bronze tribes are the seeded divine children that are brought through, and they are brought through by both the gold and silver tribes, the 96 that are the first seeds. And so it's in layers that we are created as mankind, as divine mankind. It is in layers. And this is why even you see with the Pope, they have the hat with the 3 tiers. This is exactly how you should see the creation of divine man, in the gold, silver and the bronze. And then from the bronze, we go on to Iron Man. And this is the first soul that is of a God parent, but a mortal birth. But even the bronze child is still of Mother Earth. So the bronze child is not a God in the way that the gold and silver tribes are. And this is why we do even see a hierarchy in the Titans and the Olympians, and we see again this tiering. And this is because this is how it is shown. Everything has hierarchy. However, when we fall into physicality, this hierarchy is associated with conflict. In a time of peace, it is not, because those that are the leaders, those that are in the gold tribes and the silver tribes and other leaders, fulfill their responsibilities because they want to do what is right for mankind and creation and their Father, God, their Creator. And this is why they call them the peacemakers, even you see them referred to, because it's the time of peace when the divine tribes are ruling. And this is where we are actually in a authentic way existing on Mother Earth. People cannot understand how mankind can continue to exist this way, and this is because we are not in a way that's in alignment with how we are supposed to exist and how we normally exist in a time when the ether is more present. And as we see the spiral from the golden age go down to the iron age, we do see that we are in abundance of ether for almost half of the 26,000 year cycle. So we are more in a time of the ethereal with that element present than we are without it, because even as we come through the second half of the 13,000 years and we go into the silver age and the silver gate, we've still got access to ether. It's only when we are right at the end, the last few thousand years, that there is a complete loss of access to that element, and the divine are completely no longer illuminated. They are just like all other mortals, and this is also where their humbling actually comes into it, and they are not always granted the kingdom. They have to earn their crown, and you do see this in a lot of the scripture, that they have to earn their right, they earn their place. And this is why, because when they are returned to their kingdoms, when the ether is once again present, they do have a big responsibility to fulfill. We can even see this in sayings such as they sow their wild oats, or we see it even in the Amish tradition where they have actually allowed their children to go and see and experience the world for a certain amount of time, and then they are to return and take responsibility. The Amish are just once again reflecting this cycle that divine man is in, and they have just then reflected that in their traditions, and people just don't actually understand how these practices came to be and why they were put in place. And unfortunately, they then view them in the wrong context, and they become futile rituals because they have no meaning behind them. And so we also see the apples connected to the firstborn female, and the pomegranate, and the apple is also connected to the firstborn tribe. We see the tribe of Dan is connected to the symbol of the apple and the symbol of the serpent. So we could just continue pulling more information out of this painting, but I did actually want to do this about Easter and the symbolism that they have actually taken of Easter, and now they use this symbolism in an incorrect way because they have an incorrect understanding. Just like we see these people nailing themselves, physically nailing themselves to the cross. I mean, this is just the extremes that people will go to when they're brainwashed. And if there is any symbolism that is connected to the nails shown in these diagrams, it's because they actually show that the position of the firstborn Messiah will not change. It will always be the firstborn Messiah that all of the divine race are created through, and die through at the end of the 26,000 year cycle, the great year. And when they are purified, and think of the phoenix symbolism. They are purified and then resurrected, and this is all through the firstborn Messiah, because everything happens through the first connection of the Creator, which is the firstborn. And so this is why we see he is attached to the cross, because through him we then have all of the divine race created, starting with all of the messiahs of each race. So we have the north, which is the white messiahs. We have the south, which is the red messiahs. We have the east, which is the yellow messiahs. And we have the west, which is the black messiahs. And then from each of those messiahs, they branch out with their own divine race. And so it continues for another 26,000 years. And we can see that the tree symbolism shows us this. And they always refer to the trees as a fractal, where we can see the creation of the divine race is actually reflected in this same fractal that we can see with trees, and how trees grow and branch out. And we can see the tree even being the world soul and the first pillar, the first column that all else is built from. And this is why we see north-south is the first pillar of the cross too, because this is what all else is attached to. So this is very important symbolism as well when it is connected to the creation of divine man. But this is why we see Jesus on the cross. It's all to do with the creation of the divine race and how they are created, in which sequence they are created. And then from the Messiah tribes, it just then layers out for each of the races. So we can see that we don't need to nail ourselves to the cross. Now, we also see April Fool's Day. So April Fool's Day was once again just another reminder to mankind to ensure that he continued on the correct path, because the fool is actually symbolic for the Creator. And so we can think of April Fool's Day till 12 o'clock. You can play a fool on somebody, but if after 12 o'clock you play the fool on somebody, then you become the fool. And this is because we see that mortal man is given the opportunity to just allow himself to exist in a way that his nature decides is the correct way to exist. And in his foolishness, he sees himself as the Creator and as a God, and he, however, fails to understand that this is not the case. And at 12 o'clock, we see the truth comes out. The mortals see that they were the fools instead, and the joke's on them. And this is all about the fool symbolism surrounding April Fool's Day. And so really, people partaking in April Fool's Day and not understanding the symbolism behind it, yes, you are the fool. And we even see that the Creator is connected to the Joker card as well. It's the same symbolism, and it's all in relation to our Creator. And even the Norse mythology shows Odin in a very jovial way. He is the jolly and happy god, And we see this with the mythology of Santa Claus. We see this with the information regarding the Divine Comedy from Dante. It's the irony of life. Again, this shows that we have a creator and that there is a script. And this is why when you see somebody who is the chief of a fire brigade, his last name is Burns. And you see this quite repeatedly, and people think it's coincidence, but it really isn't. It's just the nature of creation and the irony of our existence and the way that the Creator actually gives us our lessons. And this is what the universal experience is always about, our lessons as a soul. So I think that pretty much covers the main symbolism of Easter, and so I think that I have set the facts straight and put out the correct information now in regards to the symbolism related to Easter. And even though there is more symbolism that we can find within this time of the year that they have attributed to divine man and woman, I just did want to address the main symbols. But when you actually understand this information, you can actually decode the rest of the symbolism quite easily. And so this is what I invite students of the teachings to do, is to take the symbolism, the basics, and then expand upon this with other mythology that they can see a correlation to. And this is why we know that this information is actually truth and law, and that is because we can actually confirm this across culture and in the mythologies repeatedly, and we can find these connections. And so I thought that at the end of the video I would just read this from Plato, and it's in regards to the Atlanteans. Now, the Atlanteans were the divine race before the Silver Gate. So when the Silver Gate hit and there was a huge shift, material shift, because the ether had receded, and when the ether recedes to a certain amount, then this causes a very big physical shift within foundation, and this basically shakes the divine race out of their indulgence and willful ways, because they have lived quite an indulgent time throughout the golden age. And so to ensure that this doesn't spoil the children, because the divine race are the Creator's children, and you can see this in that perspective, because it does actually help to understand the information a lot easier. And so they're shaken from their indulgent and willful ways into a time where they have to actually once again begin earning their place, earning their crown. And so from this time on, within the time of the Silver Age, and as they descend down, they will begin to lose their illumination. And this is basically what Plato is alluding to here with the Atlanteans. And he says, for many generations, as long as the divine nature lasted in them, they were obedient to the laws and well affectioned towards the god, those whose seed they were. For they possessed true and in every way great spirits. Now, when it says well affection towards the god, this is because they understand their place and they understand their connection to their Creator and their responsibility to their Father and their Creator. And so while this is present within the divine man and woman, they have a love for their Creator, and they will stand and protect and fight for their Creator. And then it goes on to say, however, the Atlanteans became corrupt when their divine portion began to fade away. Now, when you look at the Lamb of God, Jesus is the Lamb of God. This is showing the portion within the divine male that is the part of the Creator. And this is the portion that illuminates and then illuminates the divine female, because again we see the divine female illuminates off the divine male. And so it says that it becomes diluted with too much a mixture of the mortals and too often, meaning that as we move down into a time of physicality, as we expand and populate, we are diluting the divinity within mankind. Hence we get Walmart people. And I'm not joking. This is why we see these types of humans, because they do really have a very, very diluted connection to their divinity. And this is why we see that the Antichrist has encouraged our population growth, and you can see that it just skyrockets around the 50s. So this has been a concerted effort on their half to dilute the divinity in mankind, and now they just continue to destroy it by debasing us. But this is where it started, with this attempt to dilute this divinity, because it is then harder for people to remember their divine nature. This is why I say people that do look at this information and understand this information in a very deep and profound way, it's probably because you are connected closer to your Creator. You are created closer to Source, and so therefore this memory in you is a lot stronger. Those that do not feel this within them, then it is either because there are reasons that you don't want to accept this information, or you just don't have a connection to it because it's just not within you anymore. And so you have to work harder to have an understanding for this knowledge, because consciously you can do what you want. And so you do have a path back to your Creator if you do want to work for that path, but you will have to work for it. You will have to put the work in and have the understanding for this knowledge. And that will require you to definitely have effort. But that is what the Creator wants to see with mortals consciously. That is when you are gifted your place. You are rewarded your place when that time comes. When you have had the opportunity to either turn your back on creation and your Creator and truth, or actually, in the face of all resistance, stand strong in what you believe to be true, because you can see it to be truth yourself. And so that is what you only will rely on, what you see as truth and your connection to your Creator. And then if you can consciously live in that way and authentic and through your heart, because you really do want what is best for creation and your divinity and your Creator, then yes, you will find your way back to the crown. The way is there, and you will be shown the way. The hidden hand will help you. You knock on the door, it will be answered, it will be opened. This is how universe works. This is how the hidden hand works for all of us. So anyway, I'll leave it there. I pretty much have covered, as I said, the main symbols for Easter. But once you do have an understanding for this information, it is not hard to then decode the rest of the information. And it is all about divine man and woman and the creation of divine man and woman. And just like Christmas is about the end of the 26,000 year cycle. These are events that were ingrained in our psyche for a reason, so that we did actually retain an understanding for them when the time returned to have this understanding, when the ether returned, when the light started returning and started awakening us again. So, as I said, I'll leave it there. And as always, peace out.